Beware the great old ones and start running for your precious life. That's right, it's Call of Cthulhu 7th edition from Chaosium. Call of Cthulhu is not your average role-playing game. A horrendous monster may suck your last drops of sanity before ripping your mortal body limb for limb and won't bat a one of their million ichor dripping eyelashes when they do it. So for those of you new to role-playing, buckle up. Most Cthulhu games take place in the 1920s United States, what's known as the Classic Era. However, books on setting your game in a gas lamp Victorian era or the Dark Ages are also widely available. The Game Master in Call of Cthulhu is known as the Keeper of Arcane Lore, or Keeper. Players take on the role of investigators, seeking to understand and reveal the secrets of the Cthulhu mythos. To begin, players must craft their investigators. It's helpful to have an idea of what kind of world you will be playing in. The Keeper advises their players on what skills may be useful in their scenario, the time period, and other important context, such as how they know each other. This step is important because if a player is caught in an adventure with no applicable skills, they're going to have a very tough time surviving to the end of the session, and survival is key. Investigator crafting is guided by completing an investigator sheet and can be summed up in 5 steps. Step 1. Generate characteristics. These 8 values create the basis of an investigator and will help determine other aspects of their abilities. To calculate strength, constitution, dexterity, appearance, and power, you will roll 3 6-sided dice, or d6s, and multiply each result by 5. Do this for each characteristic separately. For size, intelligence, and education, roll 2 d6s, add 6 to that number, and multiply by 5. Characteristic values can range from 15 to 90, which are then turned into percentages. In general, to perform tasks, investigators will have to roll their percentile dice, aiming below their characteristic or skill value to succeed. Let's take a quick look at the basic characteristics. Strength, con, and size are pretty straightforward. These numbers help determine hit points and damage bonus used in combat. Dexterity determines the order of attack in combat. Appearance is based on charisma as well as physicality. Education, important for occupational skill points, and intelligence, important for personal interest skill points. We'll come back to allocating skill points in a moment. Power, force of will, and an investigator's starting sanity value. Starting magic points used to cast spells are 1/5 power. Finally, move rate, determined by dex and strength in relation to size, but decreases with age. A move value serves as the order of action in chase scenes. A few other important numbers are luck, age, and hit points. Luck is determined by rolling 3d6 and multiplying by 5. This is a resource that can be spent to augment dice rolls in the game. Age can be any age you choose, between 15 and 90. Check page 34 for the modifiers to characteristics specific to your character's age range. Finally, hit points are calculated by adding a character's constitution and their size, then dividing that total by 10 and rounding down. More on hit points when we discuss combat. You'll notice a place to write in 1/2 and 1/5 values for each characteristic and skill rounded down. Sometimes a task is so difficult, the Keeper will require a hard success. That means you have to roll on or below 1/2 of the skill value, or an extreme success, rolling on or below 1/5 of their skill value. We told you surviving mind-shattering monsters wouldn't be a walk in the park. Steps 2 and 3, determine occupation and allocate skill points. Defining a time period relevant occupation for your character is helpful in creating backstory and inspiring players as to what type of skills should be higher according to their investigator's expertise. A reference for various occupations is in the rulebook. This lists a handful of skills and the formula for occupational skill points. Occupational skill points can be allocated as one chooses between the skills listed. The occupation also determines the character's credit rating range, which represents the resources the player will have access to in the beginning of the game. The player may choose any rating within this range, and more on credit ratings in just a sec. Each skill also has a base level that you see on your character sheet that any player, even without strength in that skill, may try and roll under. While you're writing in your character's occupational skill points, combine this number to the base level. Finally, allocate personal skill points determined by multiplying intelligence times 2. These points can be distributed between skills however a player sees fit. Remember to add these points to that skill's base points when writing them. Step 4. Create a backstory. A character is essentially a series of choices. By giving a character a rich backstory, a player will better understand that character's point of view. Answering a few of the prompts on the back of your sheet, like beliefs, treasured possessions, phobias, and strange encounters in their past, can help guide this process. Random tables for inspiration also exist if you'd like to see what chance decides. Step 5. Equip Investigator. A character's standard of living is determined by their credit rating, listed with their other skills. With a score of 45%, let's say, they would be considered of average wealth, which would mean they're able to travel modestly and maybe stay in a hotel. With a credit rating of 0, that character is considered penniless and would have to hitchhike or perhaps be a stowaway on a train if they were trying to get around. Players must also note any important weapons or items their character possesses from the get-go. Starting out, they may have very little, but that may change as they encounter all manner of remarkable items throughout the game. Most of gameplay in Call of Cthulhu is a verbal exchange with the keeper setting the scene and the players describing what they intend their investigators to do. A combination of keeper decisions and dice rolls determine whether or not the character can fulfill their desired actions. Most actions an investigator can attempt will require a skill check, in which a player rolls their D100 to find a random percentage value. D100 is represented by 2 10-sided dice. One die represents the tens value of the percentage and the other represents the ones value. A player adds these die results together in an attempt to roll under that skill value. Note, rolling a double 0 on the tens die and a 0 on the ones die results in a 100, or a critical failure. If your keeper is doing their job right, this means something very bad will happen next. The keeper may also choose to award bonus dice or inflict penalty dice based on the circumstances of a particular task. For either, a player will roll an additional d10 of the tens value. If this is a bonus die, a player will take the lower value tens die. If this is a penalty die, the player will take the higher tens die. The ones die is rolled once as normal. Let's take a look at skills. A skill of 50% means they can make a living at it. 75% is an expert. Some keepers may want to put a maximum cap on skills at 75, though even a 99% in a skill does not ensure success. When attempting a skill check of regular difficulty, as determined by the keeper, the player must roll on or below their skill value. Hard level difficulty, on or below half the skill value, should be used in significantly more difficult situations, and extreme difficulty levels should only be called for in the most dire situations. Pushing the roll is an option available to players who are desperate for a second attempt to achieve their goal by pushing the situation to the limit. A pushed roll must also have a verbal justification or a description of the extra effort required so that the keeper finds it acceptable. For example, breaking down a door may mean throwing yourself into it with no heed for your own safety. However, pushing the roll invites the keeper to bring dire consequences against the player should they fail the roll a second time. Perhaps the player loses invaluable equipment, or an ally suffers a painful death, or an investigator could be taken captive. A player can only push the roll once per test. Some results, including a critical roll of 1 or a fumble roll of 96 to 100, produce either a very good or very bad fortune, which befalls that character immediately. Fumbles may not be pushed. Investigator development occurs when successfully using a skill in play. Check the box next to the skill for the chance to learn from that experience at the end of a scenario or before your next session of play. To see if the investigator learned anything from their experience at the end of the session, roll 1 d100 for each checked skill. A player must roll higher than their skill to improve it, which reflects the difficulty of mastering the skill. If it is a success, then roll 1 d10 and permanently add that value to the current skill point. If a player ever attains 90% or more in a skill, they may additionally add 2d6 points to their sanity to represent the discipline required in mastering a skill. Players may be called upon to roll luck in situations best determined by the fickle hand of fate. Players also have the option to spend luck if a roll was very close to succeeding and pushing the roll seems too risky. A player may spend luck to alter that result by deducting points from their luck score and subtracting them from their roll result. Luck cannot be spent on sanity rolls, other luck rolls, damage rolls, or pushed rolls, nor on rolls that fumbled. Spending luck to succeed does not provide an improvement check. Combat is structured in rounds, with each player getting one turn. Dexterity determines the order of action amongst all investigators and non-playing characters in the scene. In the case of a draw, a higher combat skill goes first. On their turn, the active player takes an action. An action can be whatever that actor would like to do, including firing weapons, grappling, running, snatching, casting spells, picking a lock, anything. Some combat rolls are opposed. This means whoever is being attacked may either dodge or fight back. When fighting back, both sides roll their percentile dice and compare it with their appropriate skill. In a fist fight, we would use brawling. Now, the side with the better level of success, either regular, hard, or extreme, inflicts damage and avoids harm. If both sides fail their rolls, no damage is inflicted. A tie of successes at the same level on either side will go to the attacker. When the defending character instead chooses to dodge, they will roll their dodge skill in the combat section of their player sheet, and again resolved based on level of success based on their individual skill level. In the case of dodging, ties will actually go to the dodging character. The amount of damage dealt is dependent on the weapon. There's a table for common weapon damage in the back of the Keeper's rulebook, and Chaosium also provides a free Cthulhu Quick Start Guide PDF on their website under Free Stuff. You can find a link in the description below. Damage dealt to an investigator is subtracted from their current hit points. If a single wound ever deals more than half of the investigator's maximum hit points, it's considered a major wound, and they must fall prone and immediately make a constitution roll. A failed con roll means they become unconscious. If a character loses all of their hit points, they may die. Now keep in mind, Cthulhu is a horror game, and if an unconscious player takes a killing blow, they may suffer a final death. Players and keepers should discuss everyone's comfort level with this type of consequence ahead of time. The balance of sanity is what sets Call of Cthulhu apart from other role-playing games. When mere mortals encounter terrible cosmic truths, their tether to the rational world may wither. The Keeper should ask investigators to roll for sanity anytime they experience a source of horror. To do so, players attempt to roll on or below their current sanity level. Remember, luck can never be spent to keep one's sanity. Sometimes investigators will lose sanity even when they succeed in this roll, but lose even more if they fail. This amount is determined by the monster's stats, or the Keeper's choice if they're doing homebrewed monsters. Failing a sanity roll will cause a momentary loss of self-control or involuntary action. Losing 5 or more points of sanity in a single roll may cause various levels of insanity. Refer to the rulebook for these consequences. Those are the basics of skills, gameplay, combat, insanity, and Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. The Keeper's rulebook also contains information on chase scenes, various horrors, and a grimoire of magical spells, which are to be used more by the Keeper than the investigators, as the terrifying mythos may fry their feeble human minds. Thanks so much for watching this video from the Good Time Society. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button and subscribe button, and you can even check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/goodtimesociety. Also, if you would like to watch me play Call of Cthulhu, I was a guest on Stream of Blood on their show, The Neptune Society, playing Wilma Wiggles. So you can check that out by following the link in the description below. All right, take care, and remember, Ya Cthulhu Vertagen.